All right, Seattle hockey fans, I have my top 5. Let's see how it lined up against yours.
You are Locked On Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Seattle hockey fans, welcome to another episode of Locked On Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we bring you your favorite team, the Seattle Kraken, every single day. Erica L. Ayala here, your host of Locked On Kraken. I am also an accredited media member for Milano Cortina 2026. I have written for what now is the Kraken website, but used to be NHL Seattle, where I have done a few different features, and now am your host of this fantastic show. Want to let you know today's episode of Locked On Kraken brought to you by our friends at Game Time. We want you to go ahead and download that Game Time app, create an account, and you can use promo code Locked On NHL for $20 off your first purchase. On today's episode, I told you about the top 100 that we're doing on the Locked On NHL channel as part of our content going into the 2025-26 season. That requires me to give at least 7 names ranked 1 through 7 on the best players on the roster right now. I told you who my top 2 are. I said maybe they could be interchangeable. Some of you did respond. And the first question that I have is, where should Shane Wright go? So I'm going to talk about that. Then I'm going to show you my 5. I'm going to give you my total 7, but we have a graphic and only has 5 either way. And then we're going to go to bold predictions, which is something I asked a few episodes ago. But we're going to talk about some of the things that y'all said about bold predictions. And that will be the episode for today. So where does Shane Wright rank? Now, the way I've interpreted this exercise for the Locked On NHL channel is that we are supposed to give what the rankings are right now. And yes, Shane Wright should be in that top 7, I do believe. I think he will be higher, maybe even in the middle of this upcoming season, than he will probably be on my list right now. But for my entire list, not just for Shane Wright, but for my entire list, I really went with what we got last season and how much I think that's either going to improve, stay the same, or maybe even decline in the upcoming season. So for me, Shane Wright is definitely top 5 territory. But, again, we might have a disagreement on where he lands ultimately. Players like Jaden Schwartz, even Adam Larson, thinking about Eberle. Someone had a really great comment about Eberle that I loved. This was a little tough. I've gone back and forth, and I'm going to give you my top 5, but 6 and 7 might fluctuate. I don't know. I don't want to say I don't feel confident in it, but I feel like it's subject to change. I feel like even in the days, because I've known for about a week that I was going to do this, and I feel like I've changed my mind multiple times already. So hopefully this is a no judgment zone. We've gotten some interesting answers already, even for top 2, which I think are fascinating. And also, I think I was a little harsh on the Kraken last episode. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know if we're going to get anyone in the top 100. But, we have some guys that have been putting up pretty good numbers. It's just, unfortunately, we cannot clone them yet or get them to work, seamlessly, at least for an entire season, with a deep pairing or a line. And that has a lot to do with injury. I wholeheartedly believe that. But where does Shane Wright rank? I'm not going to tell you where I ranked him right now because, again, we're going to get into that. But JT Tower sent a list. Wright is on the list at number 6. And I also loved TJ's list. Sometimes I invert letters and numbers, so apologies. Right at 6, our best power play shooter, one of our most efficient overall players given his sheltered ice time. Some of this ranking is potential, but realistically, he's a 20-plus goal scorer next season with more ice time, and I would expect him to finish somewhere in the top 5 in points. The thing holding him back right now is his defense. If that improves, he'll likely finish higher than 6th in a re-rank. I like this. I really like this comment, TJ. I think that you encompass a lot of kind of what I believe. You talk about how your vote for Wright is a little bit on potential, and that's why I don't have him in the top 3. He's in that top 5, but he's not in my top 3. But I agree with you, after a re-rank, and we're going to have to do this now. This is some fun content. I didn't think I was going to have so much fun with this, to be honest. But when we do a re-rank, I'm very curious to see if Shane Wright will rank higher, and some other people as well. All right, let's see who else sent in. George C. Kraken has Shane Wright at number 4. And also threw in some names that potentially could be on this list, like Ellie Tolvanen, Jaden Schwartz, Capo Caco. That was an interesting one because I think if he had a whole season, I would be able to rank him in the top 7. I didn't rank him top 7 for right now. And then Adam Larson. I'll talk about Adam Larson when I get to my list. Someone clearing the benches said Berkeley Catton. And listen, I mentioned Berkeley on yesterday's episode, but the criteria is someone who's on the roster right now. By the time the season starts, the regular season starts, Berkeley Catton is likely on the roster. I still don't think he'll be a top 7 player on our roster, at least not to start, but he's not on the roster right now, so I went with that. I also, because I'm an eye test gal, I did not pick anyone who wasn't on the Kraken roster last year, but is on the roster this year. Also, I think that's a pretty safe bet because I don't know that I believe right now that anyone that we picked up in free agency or via trade is necessarily going to crack the top 7, but I could be wrong because, again, I watch Kraken games and I focus on what the Kraken are doing, not always their opponent, unless they do something really egregious. But my favorite is when they do something really awesome, and then I get to talk about them on the show, even though they don't play for the Kraken. And then I'm like, well, why don't they play for the Kraken? And that's a whole thing. Okay. George also put on here, if we were talking all-time Kraken, which again is really hard because we don't even have 75 players that have suited up for at least one game. We don't have 75 of them yet. So to do a top 100, well, they all make the top 100. And to do an all-time list, I guess we could, but I think what George says here, as far as all-time Kraken, that depends on the parameters. Best player to ever wear a Kraken sweater, Gio, and it's not particularly close. Again, we'll have that conversation some other time. But I thought it was interesting. We've got Shane Wright as high as 4, as low right now as 6, I guess. Let's see. And then I know that Striatic had chimed in here. I'm looking for the comment. Striatic agreed with George C. Kraken's list. Again, I'll go through the whole list. But I think Shane Wright was tough for me. Maybe Eberle to an extent. Vince Dunn was tough for me. Eberle and Dunn because they had injuries. And I think without the injuries and if they were on par with what they did last season, Eberle would for sure be on that list. I looked at momentum, not necessarily body of work. I was very much looking at what have you done for me lately, how the player was successful in the last season, which wasn't a very overall holistically team success season. So I think Shane Wright anywhere between 4 and 7 is about right. Haha, no pun intended. I think that's about accurate. I do agree with TJ that a re-ranking and he's probably top 3. I I do think defense, I haven't really honestly given Shane a lot of consideration defensively. I think it's because I've been looking to see if he's getting more comfortable in the role that he's tasked with playing. And that's power play, net front, playmaker, etc. That I haven't been focused too much. I recall vaguely maybe twice where I called Shane Wright out specifically for something he's done defensively. And again, I'm not saying I disagree with you. I'm just saying I haven't locked into that side of his game because I'm trying to unearth other things. But also, I think what that tells me is that he doesn't always pop when it comes to defense. Now, there have been times where I've seen him play for Coachella Valley where I thought he's done an excellent job of winning the puck back, but I haven't seen that translate. And part of it, I will honestly say, is because I haven't been locked into that part of his game. So now I'm going to be keenly watching. And that's so interesting for me to even think about because I'm so locked in usually defensively. Anyway, Shane Wright is tough. And I just want to give us all space. This is a safe space. I love that TJ brought up the notion of the re-rank because that's exactly why Shane Wright was difficult to place for me, because I do think in a re-rank, once the season gets going, before the halfway point, before even the end of the year, I think we'll see better and we'll understand better where Shane fits in on this team, or at least that's the hope. That's the expectation. And maybe the same can be said for Matty Beniers, but he was a little easier for me to rank. So we're going to talk about that, my top 5, where Shane and everyone else is on my personal list. And then I'll get back to some listener questions or comments. Specifically, I had asked you to chime in with your bold predictions, and we got some, including some that they talk about Shane Wright and Matty B, our young stars, even Berkeley Catton, I believe. We'll talk about that coming up on Locked On Kraken. Today's episode of Locked On Kraken brought to you by our friends at Game Time. We've all been there, logging on early and waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That's where Game Time comes in. Game Time makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop as it gets closer to showtime, and you can save up to 60% with their killer last-minute deals. Listen, if you're tired of endless scrolling, trying to find the best deal, Game Time Zone Deals will get you the best seats in your section. With the Game Time, your price is all in, no hidden fees. And if you're worried about what happens if you change your plans, the Game Time Guarantee has your back with cancellation protection and more. So take the guesswork out of buying concert tickets and show tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account. Redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, and that is guaranteed. Thank you again, Seattle hockey fans, for making Locked On Kraken a part of your daily destination, your first listen of the day, your midday listen, your last listen of the day, or anything and everything in between. We hope you're listening safely, soundly, and, I don't want you to disturb anyone around you. But if you happen to be listening out loud, and there's some new listeners, hello, my name is Erica. Thanks for listening to Locked On Kraken with your friend or your colleague or your partner, whatever the case is. Those are good people. They're putting you on to one of the greatest shows to cover the Kraken. Or at least that's what my mom tells me. I'm kidding. She doesn't listen to the podcast. Anyway, sweet woman doesn't know much about hockey. Okay, let's get to my top 5. I already told you this was tougher than I thought. I've gone back and forth, but I didn't want to wait. I got some responses from you. I'm sure there will be more coming in, especially now that I'm revealing my top 5. I will read you the top 7. I'm pointing here because I have another screen. I'm I'm not going to show you the list because then I don't want to spoil like the other hosts. I don't know how they're doing their unveiling, reveal. I don't know what you want to call it. Now I don't know. I don't know what they're doing, so I don't want to spoil anyone else's fun or their plans, because I do think some of you probably do listen to some of the other shows, and you should. We've got some great hosts. So I don't want to spoil anything. I do think we are listed, I believe, in alpha. Yes. No, it's not alpha order, because I don't know how we're listed, but we're not number 32. Just make us number 32. Anyway, I digress. My list. Am I stalling? Maybe. It's possible. Here it is. I told you yesterday, Joey Dax. Joey Dax, top of my list. Jared McCann. I'm not going to talk about those two too much because I talked about them a lot yesterday. Matty Beniers comes in at number 3 for me. And there's someone else in the comments that said, yeah, Beniers at 3 might be controversial. Who was that? Was that you, TJ? It was TJ Tower. This is probably polarizing. I'm sorry, not controversial, polarizing. This is polarizing to some. But on this team, Matty was second in net rating behind McCann, led all players in defensive rating, +3, and the only player with a positive rating, and that's saying a lot for last season. Led all full-time players 5-on-5 led all full-time players 5-on-5 with expected goals for percentage. Led all full-time forwards 5-on-5s with goals. Led all full-time forwards in 5-on-5 expected goals against per 60, 4th in goals, and is one of our best players on the penalty kill. He'll absolutely be one of the top players on the team, regardless of whether we expect him to finish with more points. If we get more talented wingers, the points will come. And ultimately, I have said all season, last season, that I felt Beniers was doing the small things. He was getting better at the face-off without sacrificing what he contributes defensively, what he contributes when it comes to winning the puck back, when it comes to playing against the top lines night in, night out. And there are a lot of top lines that are better than our lines in this NHL. We've got a lot of work to do to level the playing field, and Matty B was putting in the time there. So I do think he earns that 3 spot. Yes, the offensive output was different than his rookie of the year. That's fair. There was a decline offensively, but I think he added so much that was valuable to the Seattle Kraken team. So Beniers, and maybe where I placed right. See, I think I even changed it. No, I changed it back. Okay. I kept going back and forth. But Beniers and Wright were tough for me to place, or maybe it was Beniers, Wright, Montour. The last 3 were really, really tough here. I did think about putting Wright before Montour. And again, once the season starts, if what I'm expecting to happen will happen, Wright will leapfrog Montour. Where is Vince Dunn on this list? Eberle and Dunn dropped on the list that I have going into the season because they were limited with their productivity because of injury. So Montour was the anchor, the steadying presence, the defenseman that was able to get things going offensively. And Shane Wright, TJ had a lot of great points, but for me, it's just the game hasn't rounded out for him yet. Not completely. He's still finding that he has to focus, in my opinion, on small things to make them good habits, so then they become second nature. But when we've seen him do that, and when he is with great wingers, the Ellie Tolvanen, Shane Wright, Oliver Bjorkstrand line, one of my favorite lines, but it didn't last. And so Shane's productivity didn't last. It wasn't plug and play with him yet. It did rely on, who he was playing with. And that's not a fault. It's not a bad thing necessarily, but compared to what Jared McCann had to do, compared to what we ask Joey DeCord to do night in and night out, compared to how Matty Beniers can impact play, and compared to how Brandon Montour can find a way to contribute offensively, that stood out to me. And that's why Shane Wright for me is at 5. I don't think in a redraft he stays at 5. I hope he doesn't slip and fall further down than 5. But I think for right now, again, no pun intended, this is what I'm comfortable with. And I'm okay if you disagree. Let me know in the comments. What would you switch? What are your reasons? But this is my top 5. To round out a top 7, after Shane Wright at 5, I have Vince Dunn, Adam Larson. I could go interchangeable there. I even do wonder, do I have a room here for maybe an Ellie Tolvanen, for maybe a Capo Caco? But I think, I don't know. I'm going to stick with this for now. If I change it, I'll let you know, because we still have a few hosts that haven't filled in their names. So I might have some time to change it, but I'm probably going to stick with this. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, man. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. The last two were tough for me. I would have loved to see Tolvanen on this list. Capo Caco, I think, could be on this list. Yanni Newman is another player that, man, can't wait to see what he's gonna do. Yes, someone mentioned Berkeley Catton. What did TJ say? It's because I love this. I get a paragraph for each player. Thank you, TJ. I love it. And I love sharing what you guys write for the most part. Sometimes, I do go off on folks, but I mean, come on. Like, I think it's wild for someone to come in onto my show, my comments, tell me that I'm wrong or that I'm doing things wrong because I should do this, and this. And then when I'm like, okay, but that's not who I am. This is what I do. And I engage, and then they tell me, no, but you're wrong, or, you're thinking of it wrong, or your opinion doesn't matter because you've never played an 84 game season, or whatever the case is. And then when I'm like, okay, well, thanks for commenting. And then it's like, I'm being rude. I mean, it's like, what? You were just rude to me in this exchange. And then me setting a boundary and saying, thank you for commenting, is like being rude. It was just me ending the conversation in the nicest way that I could. It's like, okay, great. Heard you or read you. Thank you for your comment. We can't go back and forth forever. I mean, we can, although I'm trying not to do that anymore. Anyway, that was a sidebar. Let's get back to the list. Eberle, yeah, absolutely. I would love to see Eberle on this list. Health. And yes, I know I put Vince Dunn on that list. And I will be honest, Vince Dunn is on that list right now at 6 for me. It's not a solid 6 because I do think I'm giving Dunn the benefit of the doubt a little bit more than Eberle. I have to double check, but I still think Ebbs missed more games, right, than Dunn, even though he's been in and out of the lineup. It's like we don't talk about it, but, not as bad as a Berkey in a lot of ways, but very injury and accident prone, always coming into training camp, having to maintenance. He's having a maintenance day. He's maintenancing, right? He's always maintenancing. So anyway, something to keep an eye on. Whew. Let me know what you think about this list. Coming up next, though, I want to talk about some of your comments with regard to your bold predictions. We will do that on the other side here on today's episode of Locked On Kraken. Today's episode of Locked On Kraken also brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. August 26th is officially FanDuel Features Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions. Get it? That's why we're doing bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, you're eyeing a long shot division winner, you want to guess who's performing at the Super Bowl. I didn't even mean to do a deep dive, but someone else did a deep dive and it came across my feed about who might be performing at halftime. Anyway, are you ready to crown your own Super Bowl champion before week 1, even before everything kicks off? Well, this is your moment. Visit FanDuel, the FanDuel app, today and start managing your futures bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. All right, Seattle hockey fans, I gave you my list of 5. Here it is again in this order: Joey Daccord, Jared McCann, Matty Beniers, Brandon Montour, Shane Wright. Those are the names that I am submitting for consideration. Whoops. Those are the 5 names. There's 7 total. Vince Dunn at 6, Adam Larson at 7. Those are the 7 names that I am submitting for consideration for what will be the Locked On NHL channel top 100 NHL players. I talked on Thursday's episode, about why I don't think that many players from the Kraken, if any, will crack that list. No pun intended. If we do have a representative, or maybe 2, I think McCann and especially Joey Daccord will stand out. Now, I think there are other players that may be deserving, but those are the players that are going to stand out if we're looking from a national lens. So I guess we'll see. We have another phase of this. First, all of the hosts give their 7, at least 3, as many as 7. I was like, I'm just filling out 7. I want to up the chances that we get someone on that list. Or maybe, I don't know, should I only put like 3 players and then it's like, you got to pick from these guys? I guess we'll see. But I wanted to go back to something I asked the other day, and I asked, and y'all delivered, as you always do, but I wanted to know what your bold predictions are. You may recall that my bold prediction, Matty Beniers, year of Beniers in 2025, and that he is absolutely going to crush it, that he is going to have a bounce back like we've never seen, and he will earn that top 3 spot. I'm leaning into it, but we had some really good ones, including this one from Jeff Hackmeister. I think I saw Sarah Spain just quote tweeted one of your skeets, I think they're called, on Blue Sky. Anyway, Jeff, friend of the show, thank you so much for your loyalty. Yanni Newman breaks the single season Kraken record for shots on net, currently held by Brandon Montour, and gets to 250, top 20 in the league. I like that. I like that a lot. That means that the Kraken are gonna be aggressive, aggressive, and we need them to be aggressive, super aggressive. Mike S29, bold prediction: Shane Wright outscores Matty Beniers this season. Matt Murray starts more games than Philip Grubauer. Ooh, Mike. You might be, it's an Olympic year. We know Philip's going to the Olympics. I was thinking about this the other day. What's the breakdown going to be? Another bold prediction from Mike: Chandler Stevenson ends up playing third line minutes within the first few weeks of the season. And Daccord is a Vezina finalist. All right, Mike. Wow, that's beautiful. I love it. I love it. I would love to see all of that, honestly. If Matty gets a full season with Kakko, Newman, Catton, and Reinkampf, he'll put up 70 points minimum. Willie Hockey, I like what you're putting down as a bold prediction. That's awesome. That's awesome. Also, someone wrote MNHL. I'm an M. That's funny. The 6th thingy was odd, but it's above my pay grade. That was in reference to the first 6 Olympians being named. Good for Monty. He, of course, will be at the orientation camp, I think they're calling it, for Hockey Canada. So, and then also this commenter said, P.S., is it wrong to root for the Bear? That was in reference to Bowie and John Hayden getting way too close to a Bear. Listen, that made news in such a way that my good friend, who also works in sports, works for a 4-letter organization that, they have a nice jingle that you might know. And she doesn't know much about hockey. I have to force her to do hockey things, even though she is she celebrates women's sports like no other. I have to force her to do hockey things, even though now she's doing the hockey things at like the NHL level because she's a boss. She's awesome. And the fact that my friend who knows very little about hockey, has been like, that's a little cold for me, is talking about Bowie and the Bear on the 4-Letter Network. I thought that was hilarious. I told her she's got to come on the show now. I think you might have a guest. I think we have to do it now just for fun. So you know who you are. And I saw your response. So we're going to have to find a way to make that happen. Me and this person, we have a good time all the time. And I would love to talk hockey with her and maybe even, get the fan base to help her fall in love with the sport, just like we all have. So I liked that comment a lot. I also shout out to goalie coach Mike. I did see this a few weeks ago and I never got around to responding. Great show touching on many different points beyond trending news, and it helped me catch up on my kitchen chores late at night. See, I know some of you are late night listeners. I love that. I really hope we don't make any more trades this early on, but also don't want to hold on too long until the deadline. The Olympic break will be pivotal. So not maybe a bold prediction, but definitely something goalie coach Mike, that I will also be keeping a keen eye on. We talked about the Riker Evans news yesterday. That didn't come in yesterday, but we talked about it on yesterday's episode. So, how active? Those might be the next set of bold predictions that I'm looking for. How active do we think the Seattle Kraken will be throughout the season? Not just around the Olympic break, not just around the trade deadline, but are they going to be active sooner? Is there a magic number? Do we have to lose X amount of games in a certain period of time before the switch gets activated? That to me is going to be really interesting. I get the sense that Jason Botterill wants to be active, and I think we kind of have to be. So, but what is the measuring stick? What is the criteria? I think that's going to be interesting. As always, some great comments from our fantastic listeners. I really do appreciate the comments, even the ones that, I'm like, oh gosh, no, I said the wrong thing. But I'd rather you tell me, let's point it out, in love. I will clap back every once in a while because, hey, I know I'm a personality and I get to speak on a microphone. I love it's a foamless microphone today. She's so sleek and slender and like chic, I know I get to talk on a microphone. I mean, it doesn't always feel like there's an audience because I'm doing this right now in my office alone. And there is a part of me that sometimes is like, oh man, like people really listen and are interacting with this. I mean, I know that you do, but it's also kind of trippy to realize something that you do in quite in solitude, in isolation, just like reaches out there. So that's a little bit of the trippy thing. And the other thing is that, yes, I'm a professional. This is my job, but it's also me, right? And some of the critiques and the criticisms that I'm getting are about me. They're not about the show. They're not about, sometimes people will be like, put more Kraken stuff in your background. You can't see it, but I've got Bowie, I've got Coachella Valley. I've got the anchor. I've always got the anchor. We've got a few other tchotchkes. I'm still getting the office the way I want it. But, it's me and I can take a joke. I think so. I can take a joke. I make fun of myself all the time. I do silly things. I leave in my bloopers sometimes for y'all to enjoy. Sometimes I leave them in by accident, which is like mortifying. But again, just tell me and I'll always try to fix it. But like, remember, we're people too. And we do this because it's a passion of ours. And there's a skill set that comes with having not just the confidence, but there's a sharpness that you have to be able to do this work. And I do love it. It's a rush. It's so much fun. It's super cool. And it's hard. It can be lonely. It is late nights. It is having to plan family things around different events. And these are not complaints, they're just facts. So, let's find some grace for each other, okay? I'll try not to clap back every single time. And I'm human. And I think when I say things, I don't think I know this. There are times where I'll address something not only because it affects me, but I want to make it clear that a show that I'm hosting and a community that I'm curating, there are things that I'm going to call out. And they don't always have to be combative, but we can have a conversation, or at least I'd like to try to have a conversation. But if that conversation goes too far or isn't fruitful or it gets disrespectful, I'm probably going to hit you with a thanks for commenting, raw. So that's me. I don't know. But it's just a reminder to be kind to yourself. Do something fun. Do something loving and caring and relaxing for yourself. Well, always. But if you need permission, if you need encouragement, then there you go. And when we do that, when we take more time truly to do the things that we love, be around the people that we love, we will hold space and we will make space. We will give other people permission to be happy and to be kind to others as well. So it's a beautiful thing. Check it out, try it out. And if this show is a part of that, I'm honored and I'm grateful that you're here. And I will catch you on the next episode. Until then, my friends, peace out. Erica L. Ayala out.